legendary. Alec literally has a planet named after him. No joke. When he was in high school, he created an algorithm that automates part of the corneal transplant procedure, which saves the eyesight of thousands, millions, lots of people every year. And so it basically makes it so the doctor doesn't have to do this particular part manually. It's automated by technology. So Alec also went to Stanford University for electrical engineering and teaches people how to software engineer, and also learns and shares the engineering of inner awareness as well as a part of his own training now. So I will let that all speak for itself. When he created that algorithm, he also then won basically competition looking for young geniuses, or at least became a finalist, and went with like the group of finalists to Washington D.C. and met Obama, and then they named a small planet that's kind of like a meteorite, but it's a planet, and you can find it on Wikipedia with his name, Arshavsky. If you can support this app, do it. It's the next big thing. It's going to blow up, for real. It's going to blow up.
Thanks, Yasha, for the introduction. I've been working on many really awesome projects, including everything that we have here. And this is a project that I've been working on in the software realm of things. It's kind of cool. I definitely went deep into working on Worldchangers and didn't expect in quite this way to return to the software world. But this project kind of found me, and a team is growing around it, which is also, I'm very grateful for that. It's called Verdance. And what it is a garden sharing app. So say, for example, I've grown too many tomatoes, but I don't have any carrots. And my neighbor has too many carrots, but needs tomatoes. We can use this app to exchange, and then we both have everything that we need. So I'm going to start just by going into some things that maybe everyone is already familiar with, but why is this important right now? So there's many things affecting the food system right now. So first of all, the food supply right now especially is very deeply disrupted. So in grocery stores, there's certain foods that aren't available, that used to be available. And in general, the west of the United States is entering, and has been, but is entering into even deeper drought conditions. And what's actually happening is that farmers are not planting crops in their fields. And at some point, that statistic was 25%, and I think it may even just be growing at this moment because California is just experiencing a really severe drought, and that's where a lot of food comes from that's grown here. Now, another factor is human health. So in terms of physical health, good food is one of the important keys for physical health. And any one of us who has eaten food from a garden can say that it's just much tastier than things that you buy in a store. And the other thing is, not only is it tastier, but it's actually more nutritious. And I know I was actually having a conversation with someone, with a group yesterday, about how food today is just significantly less nutritious than it was even like 40, 50 years ago. So garden-grown food that's coming from good soil, right, is really key to putting the nutrients back into our food. And tomatoes that don't taste like plastic are really great to eat. So in terms of environmental impact, there's just a lot of pesticides and fertilizer use, and that is just really harming everything, the water, the soil. But there's also something, and I don't know how many of you know about this, but a lot of food is just constantly being transported all over the world. And so a lot of food is just trucked 5 days across the country in these semi-trucks. And if you think about it, okay, so it has to be picked when it's not ripe. It's in a truck for 5 days. Those trucks are creating a lot of pollution. So, and there's many things happening. There's a Dust Bowl happening in California. If you've visited there anytime recently, it's crazy. It looks like some of those pictures from the history books of the Dust Bowl. And of course, there's people who are gardening. There's a lot more people gardening in the past couple days. Like a lot of gardening, especially with the pandemic and sort of some of the shifts that we've experienced in the world has started happening. And something that people encounter, and part of where this project is coming from actually is what we've been doing with our community. So we started gardening, we started growing food. And as we started doing that, I was noticing, well, hey, like some of our neighbors also have gardens. And then as we started harvesting, we had like so much food that we couldn't eat all of that food on our own. So what do we do with that extra food that we have? We want to share it. We don't want to let it go to waste. And of course, I think a lot of people just want the fresher, more delicious food that can be found in people's gardens. So with all of that being outlined, how do we work with that big series of situations that exist in our current food system and industry? And so this is where the Verdance app started growing from. So we want to encourage people to be gardening everywhere locally so that our food is coming from our neighborhoods. It's kind of, we've heard about this a little bit already, but how do we be not dependent on some outside system, but also not just completely isolated and independent, but interdependent within communities, within our local neighborhoods. And so this app basically provides a way for people to easily receive food, whether they want to trade food, whether they want to buy food, whether there's someone who wants to give food away for free. It also provides resources for people to share food. And again, some people might want to sell their food. Some people might want to trade it or give it away for free because they have a really abundant harvest. And we also want to provide resources for people who don't necessarily know how to garden to be able to learn how and start gardening. And something that I've been really excited about that's kind of an early feature of the app is a mentorship feature where people can say, hey, I'm down to mentor people in my neighborhood, like how to garden. And so people would be able to see that and be able to message their neighbor who might have more expertise and say, well, hey, I want to start a garden. Can you maybe give me some tips, or maybe even come over one day, I'll make some lunch and we'll garden a little bit and get to know each other and, do this wonderful thing together. So it's a little funny because this app is not yet on the App Store, but it may be on the App Store even as soon as today. So definitely, if this is something that you feel could be really relevant for you, I'll let you know, and we'll let you know it's available. Here's how to download it. But I also want to show you, here's some of the screens and how they look right now. And so basically on this main home page, you can just see like what's going on around you and what kind of exchange are they interested in? Are they wanting to trade? Are they wanting to just sell? Are they kind of open to anything? Or do they want to give it away for free? But, it's kind of simple already if you have, any kind of like a Facebook group just to message people. But what we're actually doing here is that we're saying, let's make it really easy. So if you need something, you can just go into a wish list and put in whatever it is, like maybe it's some lettuce over here. And then we'll show you everyone around in the neighborhood who has what it is that you're looking for. But on the other hand, what if you have a garden and you're growing tomatoes? And you know that you're going to have a lot of tomatoes and you want to share those. So in the very same way, you can actually see who nearby wants tomatoes and message them about whether they want your fresh harvest that's coming in today. So we are in some early phases of this app. It's just launching. But what we really want to also continue doing is to expand the part of the app that's for the education. So learning how to garden, just really simple, really good resources, and manage the garden. Because, a lot of things you can find on YouTube or just Googling. So it's really this question of how can we really distill a lot of this into something that's very convenient for people, that makes sense for people to have on their phone. And there's definitely all sorts of things like that. So I want to kind of transition from some of these details that are here at the moment in the app towards the larger scale vision. So I mentioned in the previous slide, gathering people back to the land, which I think is really important. It's what we've been talking a lot about today. But really reestablishing our connection to nature. And gardening, getting our hands in the soil, is a really good way to start doing that for everyone. So the vision goes a little bit beyond just what can an app do, right? Because ultimately the app is just a tool that can facilitate certain things for our times. But the bigger vision is how can we really change our approach to the food system so that it's more decentralized, so that it's relying less on these just unsustainable systems, so that it's localized instead. And we're depending more on our local connections, on our neighbors, our community, and more close interaction. And also, all of this can just be financially liberating, because if we're just growing our food and we don't have to be spending so much money to get like the very best, freshest food, that can really help both our health and everything else that we're doing. So health has always felt like a central aspect of the Verdance vision, because really starting with the physical level of health, like let's get back into a good relationship with our bodies and reconnect to nature. But ultimately, what this system can do, whether it's through the Verdance app or through other systems that are facilitated over time, is just that something that looks like this. And this is actually a photo from Geneva, Switzerland, and it's called the Foodscape. And what you can see is just there's a bunch of houses in this neighborhood, and they all have gardens in their backyard, and they're all sharing food. And so this is just like really special to see. And it looks so bright and green and wonderful. And it's just something that we can really start to move towards. So Verdance is one of these things that can help facilitate these transitions towards a future where we have just a more sustainable approach to food and to agriculture and to nature, and also to our neighbors. Because in this time, we really have grown pretty disconnected, a lot of us and our culture, in particular, from our neighbors. And a lot of times, like, I know just living in a neighborhood, I might not even know some of the neighbors around. So it's like, well, what does it mean to bring people back together in some way? And it's interesting because there's this ancient expression about sharing bread. And when you shared bread with someone back in the day, like, bread was really this precious thing. You know, it took a lot to get the bread. And sharing some bread with your neighbor was this gesture of, you know, I might not even have enough, but I'm still going to share this bread with you, because, you know, really, it's not about just an individual and their health isolated from everyone else. It's about the health of the neighborhood, about the health of your community and everyone around you.
Our mission is peace.